I was always attracted to Burma for maybe a silly reason. I just always loved Kipling's The Road to Mandalay poem. When I arrived in Southeast Asia for the first time about 15 years ago, I decided I was going to head for Mandalay. Didn't know anything about Burma or Myanmar, and off I went. There's a few things that stuck in my mind from that early visit. The way I was shadowed, followed all the time. I learned about the curfews that were in existence for the whole population, that the government knew where everybody in the country was at 8 o'clock every night. The penalty for sending an unauthorized fax was 15 years in prison. And the penalty for writing anything against the government was 7.5 years per language. So if you wrote it in English and translated it to Burmese, you got 15 years. These are draconian, frightening sentences, the like of which took my breath away. But we're in a new era in Burma now, and I can cautiously say that I think that things have improved and will continue to improve in terms of the freedoms that the people have, economic prosperity, which the people have been denied by the inefficiency of the regime. And also, the most important thing of all is the ability to meet with other musicians, other artists, other people from all over the world. And that opportunity was denied to the Burmese people over the last 70 years.
I'm kind of speechless. I've never been anywhere like this. I mean, I've traveled extensively quite a bit in Thailand, and I've been to Vietnam, but this is something so overwhelming. And then the same moment, the country is opening up here in Burma, and the tourism is pouring in, and yet we've encountered so much opposition, distrust, and just kind of fear from the government on every step of the way. Since we entered the country, it's been all questioning: do we have the authority? Have we got the permits? Are we allowed in? You know, our collaboration, our musical exchange that was scheduled for the Conservatory of Music this morning was canceled just 5 minutes before we were meant to depart. And for that to happen, there must be a huge distrust still. And so it's a country that is obviously going through a huge transition now. They've opened the doors, but cautiously, and don't really know how to proceed. And so it's a great honor to be here when all this is going on.
We also have a magical sign here, and this is the and then yeah, and then. Yes.
Just start to do
But I think it's okay. I saw the rumor.
Nice, isn't it? We picked this on as
Well worth every step.
Yeah. Well, this is lovely.
Look at this place. It's
Yeah,
sparkling.
it's
It's really class.
gorgeous.
Not even a picture.
He's my depth.
I have one change of our setup.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what do you think of them? Are they comfortable?
They are very comfortable now.
They're new.
Oh, Jesus.
Nice to meet you.
One of the great singers.
We're just meeting the musicians that we're doing a collaboration with tonight, and it's really, really exciting because it's the first time that there'll be a collaboration between Burmese and Irish musicians. It feels like that there's history being written tonight, you know, so it's amazing.
We don't know. I think maybe 3 things.
Okay.
And these gentlemen play 2 things. These are absolutely extraordinary musicians and singers from the National University of Arts and Culture here in Yangon. And for a variety of reasons, it's not been possible for foreigners to engage with collaborations with these musicians until very, very recently. I believe we're the first ones from any Western country to do so. They're playing instruments that are part of the dulcimer family, but they're playing them in a totally different style, different technique, using the fingers and plucking them using finger picks, and using a variety of contrapuntal melodies and harmonies which are not at all part of Western music, a highly vocalized singing style, which is in many ways related somewhat to sean-nós singing in Ireland. This is unknown to the rest of the world. So the world is going to be astonished over the next decade or two by this extraordinarily highly developed music, and we're here hearing it, and we're part of this at this moment. It's extraordinary. It's almost unbelievable, really.
I think the fact that the musicianship level is so high.
It's not my first time in Myanmar. I've been coming here many, many times, and I love the people, I love the culture, and I love the music especially.
It's more wonderful than I can possibly express to be here this evening. This is a dream come true, that we're playing this music here in Yangon, and that we're going to be enjoying the music of our distinguished, newly found colleagues here. Most of you know that Ireland is a small island, over 6 million people in population only. But if you look at Irish people around the world, what we call the diaspora, there are over 50 million people of Irish ancestry in different parts of the world, and all of them are connected in some way to Ireland, and I think most importantly through the arts. And there are lots and lots of songs, as you might imagine, about leaving Ireland and going off. There are two kinds. One is the cheerful one of adventure, the other kind is a sad song. We're going to start with one of the cheerful ones. Oh, I am a rambling Irishman, I've travelled this country over, in search of an occupation as I've never done before. I made a resolution and I think it's a very good plan, for to travel to America and view that foreign land.
Tonight was amazing. I mean, the amount of variety and like so many firsts. We'd never heard anything like that on stage, let alone shared a stage with them and got to hang out with some of these Burmese musicians. The girls of Ireland and Myanmar unite. By the end of tonight, I'm starting to hear more and more similarities with the Irish tunes. Sometimes it's completely foreign. I don't know what is going on. It's so complex, and the counter melodies and polyrhythms, absolutely beautiful. I mean, it's very inspiring.
It's just an amazing feeling just coming off the stage right now and just to have witnessed what happened and what unfolded before our eyes, because music is such a powerful way of connecting with cultures, and I think that what happened on stage tonight, we're all just really kind of overwhelmed by what happened, so it's a really unique night.
I'm very worried about Myanmar, that this beautiful classical music, and we're hearing it for the first time. We think it's very beautiful, but we see that the audiences are not interested. For me, in an ideal world, every music would be liked. But I can understand why, if a music doesn't change, people will find it boring. We're lucky that our music keeps changing all the time. The tunes of some of the music is very old, but we change the way we play it. This is a fairly new instrument. The 5-string fiddle is a new instrument. Also, we play it in the pubs, and that's very cool.
One of the things I've learned most of all from Mick is his way to build an evening of music that's really engaging and exciting. And one thing that Irish musicians use a lot is variety. One piece will all be playing together, big sound, and the next time maybe just one singer, just for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, a single voice. And then we come in with maybe 2 instruments and then 3. So it's always a different composition and a different sound and texture for the audience. And that makes it exciting, and someone can hear a very slow, beautiful, plaintive song which maybe a whole evening everyone would leave. But for one song, it all of a sudden becomes really special.
Now, if I'm singing alone at home, maybe everybody will leave the room. They don't want to hear me. But now when everyone's playing together, maybe 1,000 people want to hear this because it's interesting. You see what has to happen to Burmese music? That somehow, from the musicians themselves, they have to make choices and build from the ground up, but make it modern without changing. I don't know if you understand. That's a very difficult thing to do.
2 years ago, I was here just right about the time of the by-elections were taking place in April in 2012, and I could just sense that it was on the brink of a transformation, you know. And 2 years on, I mean, it's incredible really the level of change that has happened and the level of reform. I mean, there's construction everywhere, even politically, I suppose. They've released political prisoners. They're hoping to end the conflict with the ethnic minority groups. Like it's a really positive experience being here now and witnessing the changes that are happening so rapidly here.
Joyce has been translated into Burmese. Of course, the Dubliners, not Ulysses itself. I think that would be a bit of a challenge. I don't know that the Finnegan's Wake will ever make it in that regard. Although there's plenty of Burmese words in there, because Joyce had a Burmese dictionary. So he was very familiar with Yangon. And I think that if you could reincarnate Joyce now for a few hours here, I think he'd feel very much at home here. In a couple of hours, we'll be heading for the airport, and it will all seem quite surreal, as it always does. These are flying visits to a part of the world that we're only vaguely acquainted with, and hopefully will become a lot more acquainted with in the future. It's also very hot here, and the tropics will take it out of you in a variety of ways. You just need a period of adjustment, and we never really have that luxury of adjusting. So the whole thing is a whirlwind, enormously gratifying, physically exhausting, and totally exhilarating.
Some of you mightn't be familiar with Bloomsday, and just to let you know, it's the day of the entire action of the book Ulysses, June 16th. One day in Dublin, it's an ordinary day, and it chronicles the passage of Leopold Bloom and Stephen Dedalus on their separate journeys round and about Dublin. He once said of Ulysses that, you know, if Dublin was destroyed, you could build it, rebuild it, brick by brick, through the plan or the map that is Ulysses.
Bless us, O Lord, in these thy gifts. Where's the sugar? Oh, Jay, there's no milk. Stephen fetched the loaf and the pot of honey and the butter cooler from the locker. Buck Mulligan sat down in a sudden pet. What sort of a kip is this? He said. I told her to come after 8. We can drink it black, Stephen said. There's a lemon in the locker.
I'm going to read a little piece from Finnegan's Wake. As Joe mentioned earlier, there are a couple of Burmese words that made its way into that work. The Burmese word that's in here is the word for elephant. And in fact, he apparently found out about it through Burmese, but he chose the Shan or Thai version, Siang. In Burmese, it would be Sin. The time of lying together will come, and the wildering of the nicht till cockly-doo opens a roar. Panther monster, send Leobero loads a morrow. When Lovadum sleeps, elephant has Siang his triumph.
We had such a wonderful trip, just a really enlightening trip. We saw such beautiful traditional Burmese music. Of course, Michelle had done her PhD on the Burmese harping tradition, and it was lovely for me as her sister to put it into context and see exactly where she had been in her trips before, and also to witness the Burmese harp live. That was an incredible experience.
Looking back on everything, like just there on the last set, like, you know, I just felt like that it was a really special experience to be here for the last few days, and you know, to be playing music with your comrades as well, and in such a fantastic place. Like, it's been a privilege to be part of history being made.
Well, today was incomparable. I mean, to think of doing Bloomsday in Yangon for a start, it's almost off the charts in terms of believability. For me, the process of bringing musicians together, the idea behind that, the thinking behind it, started a long time ago, 12 years ago, when I first came to this city. We live in a very, very shrinking world these days, and may it shrink even faster in some senses, because we're meeting people now that we would never have met in the past, and I hope this is the first of many meetings. It affirms your own personal journey in the arts. Everything that you've worked for, all the hours of practice you put in, the instruments you've bought, the maintaining of the instruments. Suddenly at a moment like this, you're sort of ready to meet other people, and everything you've ever done in your life to be as good an artist as you can be, it all kicks in at that moment, and it's all worthwhile then. You don't think about it most of the time. At moments like this, it really becomes very special.
It feels like we've been here for a lot longer than we have. You know, the people are so warm, and we've had such a great focus on the music. I felt like we really packed a lot into a short time, and I'll only believe that we're leaving here when we actually depart. But it feels like, you know, geez, we could stay here for another few months. You get so immersed in this, and it's such an easy place to lose yourself in such a wonderful way. The experience of listening to those two older gentlemen singing and playing the harp that we heard at the hotel there the other night, that will stay with me forever. The melodies are so beautiful, and it would have been the same type of melodies and scale that I would have heard in folk and fusion and even indie rock music music growing up in California, these kind of diminished chords and very beautiful melody and such subtle ornamentation that would be really cool and hip out in California or even in Ireland or anywhere else, and yet it's so old. But I'm really scared. I'm really scared for the music here, and it's such a treasure. And Mick and I were talking, what can we do? And you can't ever force people to look. This music's great. Why you should be learning this and not not Coldplay and whoever else there is coming out. The only way to do it is to really give it a platform, give it a stage, give it some place that elevates it, like the Irish music has had, driven by groups like the Clancy Brothers, who went off to America and became big stars and then returned to Ireland. And then people said, wow, well, if there's stars over here, this must be good. They need that too. The music needs to get out of this country, and then maybe it can come back and find a home. That's maybe one plan. Mick works tirelessly behind the scenes. You know, he's been telling us about Burma and Myanmar for so long, and to have this all come together, have it embraced in such an amazing way by the people here, he is my hero, absolute hero. And I think that's what traditional music of Ireland needed to become where it is today. It needed to be given a platform, a stage where it could be respected. And he has taken that around the world to edify and promote and honor traditional music from around the world. And it's so great to be a part of that.